Midori Akitsu gets reincarnated in another world as a crazy young girl known as Nefertima. In this new world, Nefertima holds the power to be loved by any creature. She's basically the perfect Pokemon trainer. But with great power comes great fluffiness. She uses her ability to even become the master of a great fire dragon. Slowly, she brings more creatures to her side. Different kinds of monsters, such as goblins and kobolds, and even a legendary white tiger, all act like servants around her. With this ability, she tries to bring peace between monsters and humans in this world by plunging herself into very daring situations. Midori enters her apartment, collapses on the floor, and dies. Not due to truck con or any other unfortunate event, but because she's been overworked at her job. It has to be the most useless way to go. God suddenly appears before her spirit and offers to give her a second chance. In exchange for a special power, he wants to send her to a world known as Azdalan to judge if the humans persecuting other species there should be wiped out. She tells him that she wants the power to pet fluffy creatures and stroke their fur. God just stood there and wondered when exactly he created this strange human. He then sends her to the new world, where she's reborn as Nefertima Asfa. She's surrounded by a loving family, which includes her brother, Ralph, and her sister, Karna. Her father, on the other hand, has some serious issues. But we'll get into that later. By the time she's 3 years old, she follows her mother to the royal palace for a visit. Instead of waiting for her mother like she's supposed to, Nefertima jumps out the window like a deranged child. She goes to play with some animals, but they all run away when a white tiger approaches her. The tiger takes a liking to her, and she starts petting it. An apex predator is reduced to nothing but a fur ball. She gets on its back for a ride, and they come across a young boy who refers to the tiger as Lars. The boy then takes her back to the office, where she meets her dad and explains the situation. Nefertima's dad was too dumb to understand, and just cuddled his daughter because he felt that she was lonely. She then finds out that the young boy is the prince known as Vilhert. Then the king, Galdi, also introduces himself to her. Galdi allows her to come to visit again whenever she wants. Not a single person decided to address the issue of a young girl playing with a tiger. Everyone here must have a screw loose in their heads. After getting scolded, Nefertima finds out that Lars is a holy beast that uses elemental powers. Another day, she goes to the Royal Academy to watch her siblings take some tests. Ralph takes a test where he commands some troops and engages in battle. At the end of it, he wins flawlessly. After a bathroom break, Nefertima gets saved from Tristan by Vilhert. Of course, then someone should have saved her from Vilhert because he has a thing for bullying her. They get back in time for Karna's test, where a huge fire dragon is summoned. Without a second thought, Nefertima jumps down to the arena and rushes to protect the dragon. This child is nothing short of a mother's worst nightmare. The soldiers were still wondering what a child was doing there instead of dragging her away. The dragon then tells her that this is no place for a child. How the dragon was even advising her and not her fellow humans was what I didn't understand. Nefertima just starts thinking about how its scales would feel, and it bows down to allow her to pet it. The dragon acknowledges her as its master, and gives her an orb that will connect them and allow them to communicate. She finds out the dragon's name is Saul, and introduces herself before it flies away. While all this was happening, not a single person thought about dragging her out of there. I'm convinced that they probably wanted her dead. It was when the dragon left that everyone decided to check if she was all right. Nefertima and her parents then get summoned to meet the king. Her father then swears with his name that she won't use the dragon's power to bring ruin to their kingdom. Director Salzar of the Magical Research Center then says that the dragon was summoned most likely due to God's will. So much for being a research center. What happened to logical explanations? Nefertima goes ahead to play with Lars and eventually falls asleep. Next thing, the courtroom was filled with chatter about how they could use her to make their kingdom prosper. Only Olive, who was the Minister of Internal Affairs, and General Goosh, head of the Royal Knights, supported her parents and fought back against the crazy nobles. The High Priest of the Church, on the other hand, wanted to make Nefertima a holy maiden. I'm not really sure it's wise to trust a priest and a little child. When Nefertima wakes up, King Galdi gives her permission to go wherever she wants within the palace, but under supervision. He might as well allow her to start making laws since he's that gullible. Vilhert then introduces her to Gwyn Fields, who is asked to take her to the dragon stables. When they arrive, she meets Dan Yates, who's the captain of the Dragon Knights. Dan and Gwyn suddenly start arguing, and we find out that they've been competing ever since their days in the Royal Academy. Nefertima stops them because she is too eager to meet the dragons. This silly girl really just sees everything as a collectible Pokemon. She unconsciously uses the power of the orb that Saul gave her, which makes the dragons rush towards her. She meets their leader, Gazelle, who then takes her on a ride. It's no surprise that Dan and Gwyn just watch the poor girl get taken away by a dragon. Not even halfway through the ride, Gazelle then welcomes her as their dragon maiden. Dan was still hurting after he felt betrayed by Gazelle before Nefertima returned with the dragons and Lars. Dan takes Nefertima to the Beast Knight's stables, where she meets Leston, the captain of the Beast Knight's Legion. Leston had doubts about what Dan said about her, but he was about to be shocked. All these old men are taking a little girl as their opposition. Where's their sense of pride? Leston takes her to meet the horses first, and he introduces her to Uwaz, who's the leader of the herd. Nefertima introduces herself, but Uwaz just snorts at her. Finally, we have an animal that doesn't fall for the deceitful ways of this girl. Unfortunately, Leston says something bad about the horse, which allows Nefertima to go and pet it. This dude just had one job, and he ruined it. Dan and Nefertima get on a different horse, and Leston takes them on a ride around the stable. While riding, they see a group of baby giant boars that start chasing them. Nefertima was about to meet her end at the hands of what she loved most, but Uwaz came to her rescue. Because of the horse helping her, Leston's pride was slowly being broken. He hasn't even seen anything yet. They come across a flock of wakas, which are known as the fastest land animals. Basically, they're just weird-looking ostriches. Leston then takes her on a ride on top of one of the wakas, and she nearly passes out. He then casts a spell to make her feel better. It makes you wonder why he didn't cast it earlier. This guy is taking this challenge a bit too seriously. After their ride, Leston gets a message about a white moose that escaped, so he heads back to address the matter. He sets up a plan to track down and capture the rare creature. Then his subordinates leave to prepare. It wasn't even up to 10 seconds later when he came across Nefertima on top of the said moose. At this point, I even feel bad for him. No one should be this good at taming animals. Leston finally accepts that Nefertima is really gifted with her abilities. She gets back home for her birthday, and her parents allow her to go visit the city with Karna and their butler Paul. Poor butler has been sent on a shopping spree with 2 girls. Good luck to him. While shopping, Karna teaches her little sister how to use money. Our good old friend, capitalism, is here to teach a young girl the horrors of the world. She goes ahead and spends more money when she buys snacks for everyone at home. They come across some of Karna's classmates who start insulting Nefertima, but Karna stands up for her sister. After that, they return home. At home, Nefertima attends a surprise birthday party that even the king attended. Isn't he supposed to be running the country? She gets so many gifts, including a rainhawk from Leston, that she names Nox. Nefertima was enjoying her training session with Nox, but she informed Dan and Leston about her having to study and not having much time anymore. Back at home, she meets her new tutor, known as Annalie Dessa. At first, Nefertima thought she was a very nice lady. Annalie then shows how much of a demon she truly is. Annalie would smack her at the slightest mistake, which made each day dreadful for Nefertima. The next day, Nefertima tries to hold back her anger and act more properly, but it's only a matter of time before she tells Lars to turn Annalie into minced meat. Her family notices that she's been acting weird, and they try to find out what's wrong. She tries running away from her mom, but her brother catches her and brings her back. She is then faced with the wrath of a truly angry mother. Nefertima's mother then advises her on how to strategize and take down her opponent, Annalie. I thought it was just tutoring. Why are they having a war meeting on how to take down the tutor? A year later, Nefertima had become a more proper lady. She then finds out that Annalie is affiliated with the Church of Divine Creation, the same church where the high priest wanted to bring Nefertima. While they discuss, Nefertima finds out that Annalie is nothing but a crazy, classist, religious fanatic. Annalie hits her out of anger but quickly leaves after getting embarrassed by a little child. What a wimp. After that, Duke Osfa warned Annalie about hitting his daughter. The tutor apologized, and Nefertima continued her lessons. I'm surprised that the Duke didn't rip off Annalie's head, honestly. After some days, the Duke offers to take Nefertima to the northern regions to expand her horizons. Of course, she quickly agreed when she thought of the kind of furballs she would meet there. They teleport with a magic circle and get greeted by Warnus Gilva, who's the proxy lord of the region of Arsenta. Nefertima rushes out in the snow and immediately gets frozen solid. I honestly wonder how the Duke puts up with such an idiotic child. They get on a carriage and head to their destination, while Nefertima gets lectured about the economy of the northern region. They arrive at a house in the woods, where they meet the mayor. Nefertima enjoys a meal made with giant boars, and even asks for an extra plate. You'd think that someone who's obsessed with fluffy creatures would do the courtesy of not eating them. I always knew this girl was a hypocrite. She then calls on Sol to ask about his opinion on the monsters that have been attacking people in the territory known as the Needlefrost Forest. Sol says that it's weird for monsters to be all the way there, so they decide to investigate the woods the next day. Nefertima prepares for her expeditions with her father. One of the items she packs includes a knife she got for her birthday. Who the hell gives a child a knife as a birthday gift? With Knox acting as their lookout, they head off into the forest. They get to a place and decide to set up camp, but the soldiers notice a strange movement in the bushes. One of them investigates and slices a tree in half completely. So every soldier here is just some version of Superman? What was the writer even thinking? They find a rabbit, which Nefertima tries to comfort, but it quickly runs away. That's the second animal now. Maybe she isn't all that powerful after all. She sees a blood puddle and assumes the rabbit must have been hurt, so she runs after it and abandons her father. When she saves the rabbit, she immediately gets captured and wakes up in a cave. Nefertima is surrounded by a horde of goblins that look like they haven't eaten in days. If only that were the case. They start acting docile, and Nefertima sees it as a cute thing. Goblins don't even have fur. What the hell is actually wrong with this child? Was she dropped on the head as a baby? She gets taken deeper into the cave, where she meets two kids who are twins. The boy's name is Pino, while his more harsh-looking sister's name is Nino. Nefertima's stomach chose the perfect time to start grumbling. Nino wondered how in the world she got stuck with this stupid kid. Unfortunately, Nino's stomach starts to grumble as well. Nefertima heads out to look for food and gets fruit from one of the goblins. Next thing, she's teaching them how to peel the back and enjoy the inside. God was definitely just messing around with this girl's powers. It's ridiculous at this point. She comes across their hobgoblin leader, who tells them that the goblins and other non-human creatures were chased away from their homes by some crazy humans. Nefertima then decides to come up with a plan to protect the goblins before her father gets there. Sorry to the Duke for having a deranged daughter. I'm sure he curses God in his sleep. Nefertima heads back to drag the twins into her plan. She wants to use them as a decoy for her plans. Yeah, I'm surprised someone this young can even think this far ahead. The plan starts with the two running towards the Duke's soldiers. They get safe, so the goblins chasing them run back to the cave. The hobgoblin comes out to negotiate, but the Duke attacks it. Luckily, Nefertima's orb protects it, and then her dad calls her out. She finally convinces her father to hear her out, but they get approached by a frost spider. Nefertima notices that the spider looks hungry and starved, but she wonders why it's panicking. The hobgoblin goes to fight the spider while the rest of them watch. Duke Osf had to hold his daughter before she tried anything stupid like she always does. A fierce battle commences between the two non-human creatures. The hobgoblin smashes the spider's brain, but it still survives. The spider tries crushing the hobgoblin with its weight, but it doesn't work, and the spider gets tossed to the side. The spider calls out to Nefertima so she can help and protect her little baby spider. Once again, spiders are nowhere close to furry, but no problem. Nefertima starts crying because she wasn't able to protect the mother spider. The hobgoblin suddenly evolves into a human with horns. Nefertima informs Sol about this, and he tells her that it's only the Oni who live in Wazheit that looks like that. He then decides to visit her the next day to get a look at the evolved creature. After getting some clothes for the hobgoblin, Nefertima thanks him with a big hug. Duke Osf was about to blow his top because he thought his daughter had gotten into that stage. She named the baby spider Gracia, which makes it evolve. The next day, Duke Osf advises Nefertima about keeping the wild rabbit as a pet, and he tells her that it would cause a ripple in the world. Yeah, sure, tell the Queen of Creatures how to handle her Pokemon. She then lets the rabbit go back into the forest. Nefertima shows Gracia to her dad, and he tells her that it's a monster and not an animal. I don't even think she really cares anymore. The evolved hobgoblin then explains that monsters are defective. For example, goblins are defective humans. Goblins are definitely not defective humans, but he should carry on. He then says that monsters become stronger when they're given a name. After that, they return to the village. Duke Osf finds out that the twins are the children of Erla Regia. Nina was trying to be a tough girl while asking Nefertima to come over sometime and play with them. Why does someone so young even have so much pride? Sol came soon after to look at the evolved goblin, and they found out that he could use all 4 elements. This is even without a name. Nefertima then names him Shinki, which makes a symbol appear on his forehead. Now she's branding them? Shinki recognizes her as his master and swears fealty to her. Nefertima talks to her father about her plans for monsters and humans to live together peacefully. She wants to make a place in the mountains and set up a barrier for the monsters to live. Then the humans and monsters could practice keeping themselves in check while covering expenses with shops and inns at the base of the mountain. She must really think she's in an RPG fantasy world. With their next destination in mind, Duke Osfa asks Shinki to accompany them. Shinki then asks Nefertima to name the next strongest goblin so that it can protect the nest while he follows them. She gets there and names the goblin Suzuko. Then another goblin rushes out to request a name for himself. Aren't these guys getting a little too greedy? She then tells the goblin to be able to hunt giant boars by itself before she gets back. If it does that, she'll give it a name. I'm surprised her brain was able to think of that, or so I thought. She names him Tuki, and then leaves. What was even the point of telling him to keep the promise? After that, they set off for the town of Cass in the Parzeth proxy. In the carriage, Shinki told them about the route he passed through when fleeing from the human attacks. When they arrive in the town, Nefertima heads off to the Adventurers Guild, where she meets Ariabel, who shows her around the place. A man named Hilran starts yelling about the mayor hoarding the money from the adventurers' quests. Of course, Nefertima uses her position as the Duke's daughter to get more information out of Hilran. I swear, this girl is all kinds of trouble. See how she's making people think that the Duke raised a mad child. Hilran then introduces himself as the financial auditor of the town. He then talks about the mayor, who makes false reports of casualties and pockets the money that was sent for restitutions. Even the knights are not of any help in the situation. Just a bunch of useless people claiming top positions in a town. Nefertima tells Shinki to talk to the goblins around the area so that they can band together with Suzuko. She then gives Nox a letter to deliver to her father. Ariabel and Hilran then accompany her to the mayor's office. How are these people taking a child so seriously? She's just a crazy kid who likes animals. When they meet Duke Osf, he gets angry at Nefertima for running off without permission. Nefertima was about to cry like the wimp she was before her brother came to comfort her, followed by Prince Wilhert and Lars. With that done, they head inside the mayor's house to confront him. After some arguments, Duke Osf detains the mayor while Nefertima continues to enjoy some fluffy time. Duke Osf thanks Hilran for his investigative abilities. He then makes them swear on their names to not tell anyone about Nefertima's plans, which he was about to say. Even her father knows just how crazy she is. That's why he doesn't want to spread the word about it. After hearing about it, they all agreed to help out Nefertima. Shinki returns, and Nefertima welcomes him with so much happiness that Ralph's pride is hurt in the process. Shinki told them that he had taken care of the goblins who were on their way to the cave. While discussing how to take care of the kobolds in Lennis, they suspect that there might be spies working against them. Nefertima decided to go take a nap with Lars, but her brother refused. It got worse when she picked Shinki, which made Ralph and Wilhert take him out for a small talk. Poor Shinki is about to know the true wrath of nobles who are obsessed with a little girl. Nefertima ends up lying down with Lars, and she introduces Gracia to him. The next day she goes to Lennis with Ralph and Wilhert. Ralph gives the operation a very stupid name, which makes Wilhert call it the Shana Project. I can't even say what Ralph called it. You would think he was younger than his deranged sister. Meanwhile, Duke Osfa was getting chewed by Karna for leaving Nefertima behind. I'm sure this guy wonders how he ended up with two crazy daughters. He then explains the situation to her and their mother. Nefertima's mother decides to gather some workers that will help out in the monster town. They decide to hire more bodyguards. Luckily, Philip, one of the Duke's associates when he was an adventurer, was arriving soon. Philip would also be an instructor for Karna, who had a sinister smile at the thought of it. Nefertima arrives in Lennis, but the boys leave her in the carriage and go to speak with the captain of the knights. It's a good thing that she didn't decide to run off like before. After that, they all go to meet Marquis Parzeth, the proxy lord of the region. The dude looks like he has seen better days, but these cobalt attacks are draining him. Marquis tells them that a group known as Red Halada will be arriving soon to help with the cobalt attacks. They decide to take a look around town and come across some kids beating up a helpless creature. Is every kid in this show just angry and crazy? The leader of the runts, Belgar, decides to become as strong as his dad after hearing Nefertima's words of advice. Ralph heals the pup, and Shinki tells them that it's actually a kobold pup. The darn thing looks like a Shiba Inu. She decides to head into the forest and return the pup to its mother. Hilran suspects that the town must be hiding something, so Nefertima allows him to go investigate the issue. She then goes with the rest to look for the kobolds in the forest. I'm pretty sure Hilran just wanted to run away. He seems to be the only one sensible enough to know how crazy Nefertima is. They come across a slime creature hiding in the grass. Nefertima was already fantasizing about how the slime would feel if she squeezed it. Someone needs to lock up this girl. At this point, I'm scared for the monsters. Thanks to Shinki's translation, they find out that the slime is asking them to help its weakened comrade. The guards run ahead of her while following the slime. They encounter a bigger one known as a parent slime. It has so many baby slimes inside it, and Shinky said it was about to give birth. Isn't that too much of a scene for Nefertima to be witnessing? In order to prevent it from reproducing, Nefertima names it Shizuku, and it goes ahead to inhabit her body. The rest of the guys there were just looking as a little girl swallowed a huge slime creature. Does no one care about children here? She then takes the smaller slime and names it Haku. With the guidance of the spirits, they go deeper into the forest and come across an old tree, which is the guardian of the forest. Nefertima goes ahead to talk to the tree. Okay, what exactly are her powers again? Seriously, did God just decide to change it midway through the show? I mean, she's talking to a tree. She then told the tree that she was trying to return the kobold pup to its parents. After hearing about her plans, the tree shows her the way to the kobold camp. On their way to the camp, Nox protects them from a big bug known as Mamushi. Shinky then roasts the bug's meat and gives some to Nefertima. Now she's eating bugs. Where exactly did her parents go wrong? Wilhert, Ralph, and the knights also give it a taste, and they all like it. After that, they hunt down more of the Mamushi so that they can give it to the kobolds as a gift. They encounter the kobolds, who are very skeptical of them, but the creatures agree to guide them to their camp. When they get there, you won't even expect what comes next. It's literally just a large group of different dogs. I thought kobolds were menacing. Why am I seeing bulldogs and German shepherds? Nefertima meets with their leader and offers her the gift of Mamushi meat before negotiations proceed. The kobolds' leader, Sicily, doesn't really trust Nefertima due to her past experiences with humans who have attacked her kind. Nefertima tells her about the extermination squad coming to wipe them out, but Sicily already knows about it, thanks to her being a star reader. Since when do dogs communicate with the stars? Is she just high? Nefertima tries to tell her about her plans for monsters and humans to live peacefully, but Sicily refuses to work with her. As Nefertima heads back to town, Sicily sees a sign from the stars, which leads her to believe that Nefertima is their savior. Back in town, Ralph receives a letter that states that Karna will be joining them soon. Having those three siblings in one place is the perfect recipe for disaster. At the same time, Wilhert receives a letter that grants him special power over the knights in the attack force. After that, Nefertima returns to the kobold camp and shows Gratia and Haku to Sicily. This makes the kobold leader more willing to hear out Nefertima's plans. Sicily, just like everyone else, thought this girl was completely insane for trying to rescue monsters and give them a place to live. She then leaves to get the other leaders. A kobold named Hanley then introduces himself to Nefertima. The poor creature has no idea just how much of a freak the girl is. Hanley goes ahead to explain the ecology of kobolds to her. Nefertima was barely listening, and instead, she just harassed the guy by grabbing onto his fur. Ralph and Wilhert thought she was doing too much until they touched Hanley's fur. How was the kobold just standing there and letting all this happen to him? Sicily then comes back, and Nefertima explains the plan to the rest of the elders. A star wolf girl, who's Sicily's younger adoptive sister, interrupts their meeting because she's skeptical about humans. Sicily then assigns the wolf girl to be by Nefertima's side and protect her. They literally look the same age. How exactly is that supposed to work? After the strategy meeting, they get ready to confront the extermination squad. Fika, the father of the pup that Nefertima rescued alongside two of his children, Gu and Roku, will tag along as messengers. They head back into town to infiltrate the knights and find out more about the attack force. Nefertima, Ralph, and Wilhert go to meet Dylan Noctis, who's in charge of the kobold extermination. While discussing, they get the word about some knights who were seriously injured when they tried breaking up a fight between adventurers. By looking at the injuries, Wilhert says that the knights were attacked by a carnivorous beast and wind magic. Ralph goes to lend a hand to heal the knights. Later at night, Heelren gives them a report on the information he has gathered. He found out that the regional commander had been embezzling and committing other dubious acts to make the adventurers look good. Wilhert gives him the dagger with his royal crest, and tells Heelren to find proof of these actions. Heelren went from being a local person to getting entangled with two royal families. Could his life be in any more danger? The next day, they return to the forest to tell the kobolds about the enemies they will be facing. Nefertima then gets the stage to bolster their morale, but she just ends up looking stupid. She probably had better chances of making them laugh. Wilhert then tells her to look more confident since it would help the morale of those she's leading. He hears from the spirits that the Knight Commander has gotten more forces by adding the Beastmaster and his people as support. The day comes, and Nefertima's forces start by ambushing the extermination squad. Thanks to Shinky creating a dense fog, they started taking out the knights one by one. Was it really this little runt who thought up this strategy? Slowly, the kobolds continue to thin out the forces of the knights. The main battle then finally commences. A member of Red Hlada, Luck, notices that the kobolds are being helped by humans. Why is a beast person even fighting against his fellow monsters? Where's the loyalty? The leader of Red Hlada, Yuga, suggests that they retreat and wonders why there's no other adventurer aside from them at the battlegrounds. Ralph then tells about Runahark, the mysterious organization that they believe is behind the orchestrated monster attacks. As they decide to retreat, a huge bolt of lightning strikes the remaining knights and incapacitates them. By the time Ralph and the rest arrived at the scene, the kobolds were gone. Nefertima was filled with anger and sadness as she saw the number of casualties on the kobold side. She and the rest then escape after Shinki's lightning strike. She finds the courage to stop crying and encourages the others to do the same and pay respect to the dead. Yeah, a 5-year-old kid is doing all this. I wonder what exactly the writer was going through. Slowly, Nefertima was embracing the path of a ruler. Regardless of the perilous journey ahead, Sicily and the others decide to still follow Nefertima and see her as their leader. After that, she decided to send the kobolds to Mount Ladamo. Not even a second later, and she's already abandoning them. I knew you couldn't trust this child. Sicily then hands over her little sister to Nefertima, who names her Spica. She also gave Gu and Roku the names Sego and Rikusei, respectively. With that done, they return to town to hear from Heilran. They get the evidence they need, and Wilhert says he'll send some troops to investigate the matter. Isn't he just being a lazy prince now? After that, they attend a celebration hosted by the knights after eliminating the kobolds. Nefertima then tells Shinki to keep an eye on the general. She goes to meet the members of Red Hlada with Will, and she can't stop staring at Luck's ears. It was the first time that Lars had to slap her back to her senses. She then follows Luck as he goes to get a meal. Luck kept walking casually while Nefertima was going through trials and tribulations just to keep up with her tiny legs. Is this how short people feel? Luck carries her on his shoulders, and she uses the opportunity to get a feel of his ears. She then comes across Belgar, who's doing the dirty dishes. Well, at least it's an honest living. On their way back, Karna rushes to Nefertima and nearly squeezes the life out of her. Maybe Karna is the real problem child out of the three of them. They all sit down around a campfire and enjoy the banquet together. Later that night, Sol comes to take Nefertima on a ride and shows her a bit of the world. She then swears in her name to make Project Shana a success. That's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content.